Hey, y'all have been waiting for that hyper wheel review. Here it is. Shh. Filming on set, thank you. So I had the hyper wheels given to me, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of a brands guy and I like the bigger brands. So when I got the hyper wheels, I had mixed emotions about it. I kind of almost didn't want to put them on my bike. But I tried them out because why not? Everyone was super excited about them. So I got a pair and I tried them out. And I rode them for quite a while. I think I rode them for a good solid almost 2 months during my training and stuff. I put some big rides on them. I think I did around a couple rides of 100+ miles on them. I did intervals on them. I went after KOMs on them. Like I pretty much put them through everything. So I already did a video kind of on my first impressions about them, which was just the unboxing, and then I rode them, and then just like quick little review, and you can find that here. But today I really want to just dive into just overall what my impressions are on them. Now to start off, I'm comparing them to the Roval CLX 50s that I have, which are made by Specialized, and those wheels are amazing and they go for about $2,400. These wheels though go for about $1,100 and they're almost identical to those. So let's dive into some of the things that I thought was interesting in comparing them, and maybe that will give you an idea on if you want to actually buy them or not. So let's start with the weight. I believe my Rovals come in around 1350 gram wise, 1350 grams. These hyper wheels actually came in around 1360-ish grams. So weight wise, they're pretty much identical. There's really not a difference there. So they're a deep rim, they're 50 millimeters deep, just like my CLX 50s, and they're almost identical in weight. The other thing is you can set them up tubeless, and I have run tubeless in the past, but right now I'm not running tubeless, so I ran them with tubes, but that is an option. One big difference that I did notice between the way that aero rims are going right now is aero rims are actually being made wider and wider and wider, right? So like for my CLX 50s, I can rock 26s on them, I can rock 28s on them, and they're gonna be slightly wider than the rim or line up nicely with the rim. Now the one thing with the hyper wheels, here's the one thing with the hyper wheels, they are actually a more narrow rim. So they're almost kind of like traditional in a sense. They would pair very well with 23 millimeter tires, and you can use 25 millimeter tires, which is what I was using. But if you threw a 23 on the front, that front wheel would be crazy fast, because if we're gonna be honest, being a little bit narrower in the front, especially with a narrow tire that's gonna sit slightly inside the width of the rim, it's gonna cut through the air nicely and it's gonna be quicker. So that's one thing that I did see about it. So it was a little weird looking down and seeing them not as wide as what I've been used to the last couple years, but they are fast nonetheless. Now let's talk about the feel. There wasn't a major difference between the hyper feel and my Roval feel. Like, I almost felt like I had the same wheels on my bike. Like, I didn't notice a big deal. I mean, they're both gonna be carbon. The only difference is the hyper wheels come with the carbon spokes, where the Revals have just aero titanium spokes. But overall, there wasn't a major difference. It wasn't like I jumped on and was like, oh my gosh, these are completely different wheels than what I've been riding. Like, they were actually pretty comparable in road feel. Vibration wise, maybe even just a little bit better, because maybe the carbon spokes were able to deflect a little bit more. But even then, that's a huge claim. Like, I'm just gonna say they were pretty much identical. I really don't have anything bad to say about the feel of them. As far as stiffness goes, they're both gonna be comparable in stiffness too. I did a few climbs, actually I did a lot of climbs on the hyper wheels, but I also did some intervals on the hyper wheels, and I'm gonna be honest, they responded really well. I never felt like I was not accelerating at the normal speed that I'm used to. I wouldn't say that I felt like I was accelerating any faster than I'm used to. Like, they felt very comparable to what my Rovals felt like when I would go to sprints, or when I would, jump out of the saddle and accelerate up a climb or anything like that. They're gonna be spot on comparable. So, I mean, as right now, hyper wheels they're pretty much the same as the Rovals. I haven't tried any other wheels recently, but because of that, the only big difference between the two so far is going to be price and the width, of course. Now, I realize I've actually talked about a lot of positives about them, a lot of comparable things, but actually let's look at some things that I noticed that were slightly off from where my Rovals were. The first is going to be cornering. I think my Rovals actually cornered faster and maybe more stable than the Hypers. One thing I noticed is the Hypers are really good for straight, fast roads. Like, they are amazing at that. They just cut through the air and they go. When it comes to like just descending and more technical roads with turns and stuff, even like like we have a circuit circuit race that we do in our area, and I used it out there a couple of times, the Hyper wheels, and I did notice like hitting the U-turns and stuff, they were it's not that they weren't stiff, it was just, I don't know, they were just a little bit different when it came to cornering than my Rovals. Not much though, like it's gonna be just like, here's the Rovals, then here's the Hypers. But that's one thing I noticed. The other thing I did notice, that to some this is a huge deal, to some it's not too big of a deal. I am a rim brake guy, so I'm using rim brakes, all right? If you're disc, this is not gonna apply to you, okay? If you're looking at buying the disc wheels, ignore this. But if you're riding rim brakes and you're looking at buying a pair of these, one thing I noticed was they didn't stop as good as my Roval wheels. Basically, they just weren't like as grabby, like they weren't as, if you kind of slammed on them, they weren't as aggressive in the grab to really slow down. So they had just a little bit of a lag. So I noticed on descents, I'd have to pull brakes a little bit sooner than I was used to in order going into corners. Whereas with the Revals, I can actually go into the corners and then slam on them and then, you know, make it through the corner safely. But that's one thing I noticed. The braking on them is just a little bit sluggish. Carbon brake tracks have come a long ways on rim brakes. I feel like the Hyper wheels are just still slightly behind on where the technology is for that. Now, overall, my thoughts on them is, if you're looking for a great set of either training wheels or a good race wheel, I honestly would buy the Hypers because of the price point. Now, if you have the money to spend on higher end wheels, you know, because of the cornering thing that I didn't really like that much, and the braking, I would definitely probably pay a little extra for just, I don't know, a little bit more comfort or being able to be a little more aggressive on downhills. But overall, the Hypers are actually a solid wheel, especially at the price point. I know a lot of people talk about the Hunt wheels and they're like, hey, the Hunt wheels, what about those? Those are like the same price. I haven't tried the Hunt wheels, so I can't give you any advice on which one's actually better in that market. But the Hypers are pretty solid. I'm definitely gonna be riding them for training rides and stuff. I think I'm probably gonna stick to my Roval 50s for racing, just because they corner a little bit better and I can descend a little bit better with the braking and stuff on them. But overall, I did like the Hypers. Like, I was never riding them going, oh my gosh, I don't want to ride these anymore. Like, I was totally cool with it. I mean, like I said, I probably put at least 3,000 kilometers on those wheels. So that's a lot of time on those wheels, you know, good solid 2 months. And overall, I liked them. So if you're thinking about pulling the trigger on them, I would actually say go for it. I've had a few of my own athletes actually buy these wheels. They liked them. I loaned them to a guy in our area. He liked them. He thought they were fast. He thought, you know, they're pretty comparable to other high-end wheels. There's some people out there that are like, oh dude, I'm selling my Envies. These are way better. Like, I just think that's a little bit of overhype on them. So I'm trying to give you guys an honest review. But if you are interested in picking up these wheels, I believe you can use Chaz 10. It'll save you 10%. I know it's not much, but that's probably gonna be the shipping. They do come in, I believe, a 38, 50, and a 60 or 65 depth of the wheel. They do come in rim and disc brake as well. But overall, I liked them. I know y'all been waiting for this video, so there it is. Keep riding and training hard, and I will see you guys on the next video. Thought I just heard a deer in the background. If you're wondering where I'm at, I'm in Maryland. I know. Catching up on videos on vacation. Anyways,